Today is where Goblet of Fire fully shifts into global event mode. Hogwarts stops feeling like the only magical world we know and suddenly becomes a host site. Two foreign schools arrive with completely different energy. The Ministry shows up, and the Goblet of Fire is introduced as a system that chooses champions. And once you're chosen, you're locked in, no turning back. And the ending of Chapter 16 is the first true cliffhanger of the book because it proves the tournament isn't just exciting, it's dangerous, unpredictable, and already out of Harry's control. Broadcasting from the highest tower in Hogwarts, your resident Ravenclaw, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest. And this is Magic Muggle. We're covering Goblet of Fire, chapters 15 and 16. The arrival of Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. Beauxbaton, I practiced it on my walk today multiple times. I think I'm still butchering it. Durmstrang is a little bit easier. And of course, also, the official opening of the Triwizard Tournament with the Goblet of Fire starts today. So let's move into Chapter 15, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. Chapter 15 opens with Harry waking up early and making a decision that's very Harry. He writes to Sirius, and he tries to downplay what happened with the scar pain. He's trying to prevent Sirius from doing anything risky to come back. Hedwig is still upset with him from the night before. He snubbed her of a treat because he was so anxious that Sirius was coming back, putting himself in danger. He treated poor little Hedwig a little bit mean. So even getting her to cooperate is a mini battle, but she does it. She takes the letter, and it's that mix of loyalty and attitude that makes Hedwig such a great character. I love Hedwig. I want Hedwig. At breakfast, Hermione immediately calls Harry out for lying. Harry's logic is simple. He'd rather carry stress alone than put Sirius in danger again. Ron shuts the argument down for once, and you could feel that the trio is already operating with a more serious, grown-up tension under everything. So the key takeaway is Harry's instinct isn't help me, it's don't risk yourself because of me. The biggest part of Chapter 15 is Moody's defense class. We're back. He announces he's going to use the Imperius curse, one of the forbidden curses that we talked about last week, on students, which is illegal. But the justification is that they need to know what it feels like, because this is the real world and dark magic exists. The class watches students behave completely out of character under the curse, doing weird, humiliating, or impossible things. And it becomes obvious how terrifying this curse really is, because it overrides choice. When it's Harry's turn, Rowling makes the curse feel especially dangerous by describing how pleasant it is. Harry's mind clears, worry disappears, and it becomes easy to obey. That's the horror. It doesn't feel like torture, it feels like relief. Moody gives Harry a simple command, and Harry begins to comply, but then a second voice inside Harry's head pushes back. Harry half resists, injures himself in the process, and Moody is thrilled because Harry is the first student to show real resistance to this spell. Moody repeats it multiple times until Harry can throw off the curse completely. This isn't just a classroom demo, it's foreshadowing, and Harry's core strength isn't flashy spell work, it's the ability to resist control. Very, very important. Moody's reaction is basically, Harry fought it, and that matters. So after that, we get a montage of Hogwarts getting heavier. More homework, more intensity, teachers raising expectations, the sense of a normal school year starts slipping away. I imagine this is because of the upcoming tournament and how distracting it'll be to the students. It's going to be hard to get more work done during that time. So they're trying to get them prepared for their OWLs, which are next year, early, because the rest of this year isn't going to be your average year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Even Hagrid adds to their workload because the blast-ended Scroots are growing fast, and he wants them to observe them growing. Malfoy refuses. Hagrid threatens him by referencing the ferret incident with Moody, and the Gryffindors enjoy watching Malfoy get checked, especially after what he did to Hagrid last year. Then the sign goes up in the entrance hall. Beauxbatons and Durmstrang arrive Friday, October 30th. Lessons end early. Everyone assembles outside, and the school becomes obsessed. We also get Hogwarts physically preparing. The castle is being scrubbed, armor polished. Filch is on a warpath about cleanliness. The staff seems tense, too, because it feels like Hogwarts is trying to look perfect in front of these guests, which is not a vibe we usually see from this place. There's usually a little graceful layer of dust over it all. The arrival is pure spectacle. Something huge appears in the sky, and it turns out to be a gigantic powder blue carriage pulled by winged horses the size of elephants. That's exciting. Madame Maxime steps out and instantly reads as powerful and regal. She's enormous, comparable to Hagrid, dressed in black satin with opals, and she carries herself like she owns the room even before entering the castle. Dumbledore greets her warmly, and she introduces her students, who are underdressed for the cold and clearly uncomfortable. Before going inside, she makes a point about her horses needing special care. She specifies that the horses drink only single malt whiskey. That line is funny, but it also tells you that Beauxbatons is operating on a totally different level of luxury and weirdness. Durmstrang's entrance is the opposite energy. Instead of arriving through the sky, something starts happening in the lake. Bubbles, a whirlpool. Then a ship rises out of the water like something is resurrected. The ship feels eerie, like a ghost story. And then we meet Karkaroff. He's charming in tone, but immediately comes off cold and calculating. He's polite with Dumbledore, but his eyes don't soften. I wonder if this boat is kind of like traveling through the lake like flue powder in a giant chimney, kind of the effect of they go through a lake at home and then they pop out at Hogwarts. Like everything's magical. That's my theory. But then we get the reveal. Viktor Krum is with them. Ron recognizes him instantly, and that's where chapter 15 closes. Hogwarts just became a place where international celebrity is walking the halls. Harry's not the only famous one this year. That brings us directly into chapter 16, the Goblet of Fire, the self-titled chapter. Chapter 16 starts with the school processing what just happened. Ron is basically in shock that Krum is still in school. People are trying to get autographs, and there's this whole frenzy vibe. Then the Great Hall starts becoming a subtle character moment. Durmstrang chooses the Slytherin table, which immediately gives Malfoy a chance to posture and try and attach himself to Krum. Beauxbatons sits at the Ravenclaw table and still look unimpressed and cold. I always imagine Hogwarts as like a warm place, but I guess their heating system, their magical heating system isn't turned on yet. Harry notices Filch adding 4 extra seats at the staff table, which hints more officials are coming than just the school heads. Dumbledore welcomes everyone, and one Beauxbaton girl reacts with visible attitude, which Hermione takes personally. The food is extravagant and includes foreign dishes, and Hermione recognizes some of it, which becomes a small Hermione is prepared for the wider world moment. Hagrid arrives late with a heavily bandaged hand, which implies the Scroots are indeed thriving, just maybe at his expense. Then, a Beauxbaton girl approaches the trio because she wants the dish that Hermione identified. This is our first real close-up moment with Fleur Delacour, though we don't know her name yet. Ron completely malfunctions. He can barely respond, and it becomes obvious that Fleur has an effect on people beyond normal. Someone is pretty energy. Ron insists that she has to be a part of the villa, and that the text supports that by showing other boys reacting similarly. This scene is funny, but it also introduces a real piece of the Wizarding World mythology and charm that Hogwarts students aren't used to in person. The last 2 seats fill Ludo Bagman and Barty Crouch. Bagman gets a warm reaction because he sports a figure with friendly energy. Crouch gets a polite applause and stays rigid and severe. Dumbledore explains they're on the judging panel alongside the heads of the schools. The tournament is formal now. It's not just school hype, it's ministry supervised. Filch brings out a jeweled casket, and Dumbledore reveals the Goblet of Fire, a simple-looking cup made extraordinary by the blue-white flames inside of it. Dumbledore explains, anyone who wants to compete submits their name plus school on parchment. The goblet chooses one champion per school. There are 3 tasks spaced across the year. It tests magical skill, bravery, deduction, and the ability to handle danger. The winner gets the Triwizard Cup and a huge prize. Then the biggest rule. A champion is locked into the tournament. Dumbledore emphasizes it's a binding magical contract. He also adds the age line to prevent underage students crossing and entering. The whole segment is where the story turns from fun idea to serious stakes. As they leave, we see Durmstrang's living setup. They go back to the ship, which is a cool detail. Karkaroff also reveals his personality more clearly. He's kind to Viktor, but quickly turns nasty to another student, which shows he's not warm. He's selective. Then Karkaroff pauses when he notices Harry's scar and realizes who he is. So Harry is globally famous. Voldemort was not just a UK thing. He was a evil wizard of the entire world. Moody steps in and confirms it bluntly. The reaction on Karkaroff's face is intense. He's mixed with fear and anger. And Moody's stare tells us there's a little bit of a history there. This is a quiet early warning that the adults past are part of this tournament. Something old is in the room. The next morning, students gather around the goblet in the entrance hall. The age line is visible on the floor around it, and some older students and the foreign students have already entered. Fred and George arrive with an aging potion plan, and they try to cross. For a second, it looks like it might work. Then the age line blasts them back and instantly gives them long white beards. They grow immediately old. The whole scene becomes comedic relief because it reinforces Dumbledore has thought ahead. Dumbledore arrives amused, which I like. He's not angry at them. He's pretty much laughing with them and sends them to the hospital wing. We also learn other students attempted it too, and they're also in the hospital wing. We get Halloween decorations, bats, pumpkins, the whole vibe. Rumors fly about who might enter. Cedric Diggory, Warrington, older students. Angelina Johnson enters for Gryffindor, a solid, realistic candidate because she's older, talented, and actually eligible. Hermione wants to recruit Hagrid for SPEW, Spew, which becomes a running thread as usual. She really wants justice for those house elves in that kitchen. I might have even asked in an earlier book, what's going on? Is there kitchens? Is this just magical made food? Then Beauxbatons enters as a group, organized by Madame Maxime, and their names go into the goblet, and the flames react each time. We learn that Beauxbatons are sleeping in their carriage near Hagrid's. I just imagine every giant thing, like the carriage and the boat, kind of like the tent that they were in at the beginning, where it's just like a whole house inside. They must have like a full castle inside their the boat / the carriage. Harry, Ron, and Hermione visit Hagrid and find him dressed up in truly painful trying to look good outfit. With slicked hair and way too much cologne. I can relate to this Hagrid. Hagrid is excited about the tournament but refuses to tell them the tasks. He argues with Hermione about house elves and refuses to join Spew. The house elves, on record for everyone else, they believe and see that they love what they do. Then the reveal. Madame Maxine shows up and Hagrid is completely enchanted. He leaves with her to go to the feast and the trio realizes what's happening immediately. Go Hagrid. It's funny, but it's also kind of sweet, and it connects Hagrid to the giant theme in a way that matters later. Back in the Great Hall, the goblet is now placed prominently near Dumbledore. Everyone is restless, waiting for the decision, including me, the audience member. The lights dim, the goblet becomes the brightest thing in the room, and then the selection happens. First, the goblet chooses Durmstrang's champion, Viktor Krum. Not surprising in the least, but huge for the hype. Second, it chooses Beauxbatons' champion, Fleur Delacour. I love that name. We see she's already even flattering me. We see the rest of her school react strongly. Disappointment, some students crying, which shows how competitive and emotional this is. Some people really want to represent their school. Third, it chooses Hogwarts champion, Cedric Diggory. Hufflepuffs explode with pride. Ron is unhappy because it's Cedric, not a Gryffindor. Dumbledore begins to wrap up, and then the goblet flares again. A fourth parchment, and the Great Hall goes quiet in that sick kind of way because it's not supposed to happen. Silence. Dumbledore reads the name Harry Potter. And that's where we leave it. The tournament is officially open. The champions are chosen, and the goblet just broke reality. Harry's reality, to be precise. Next episode, we get the fallout, the confusion, the outrage, and the question that becomes the spine of the book. How did Harry's name get in there? And who wanted it there? If you're listening and you're excited for this arc, make sure you're following the show, drop a review, and I'll see you in the next one. And until then, wands down, hearts full.